Hi everybody, Mr. Whiskey Connoisseur is back here in Ireland. This is something different and interesting that I found. I want to talk about it. Try it with you again. How's it going? So this is called Hyde, number 3, the Arras Cask single grain Irish whiskey from a distiller from this area since 1916, so not too old, 46% by alcohol. And single grain whiskey is a little different. We talked about the pot still, which is all one unmalted barley and malted barley. Then there's a single malt, which is all the same malted barley, which also Scotch does. Then there's the blends. Then there's this, which blends are... Blends, like your everyday Jameson, is usually a mix of single pot still and grain whiskey. So grain whiskey, which also is in America, and bourbon, Scotland, Canada, Japan. Grain whiskey is usually made from some other things like corn and rye and different cereal grains. It's not malted barley like the other types of whiskey are usually. And Irish grain whiskey is at least some malted barley, but the rest is corn and rye, other grains. Doesn't really say exactly what this one is, but a few interesting things that are about this one before we try it on the history side. So first off, let's not go too far back. The year 1916. 1916 is a hell of a year to start a distillery. This is from County Cork, a place called Innis-on-Tan. Ooh, that's a Gaelic word. So 1916 was, World War I was raging all across Europe. Ireland was involved because it was part of the United Kingdom. And it was getting crazy. And also the Irish independence movement, which had been struggling for centuries. The Irish Republicans had something in 1916 called the Easter Rising, which mostly happened in Dublin, but also here in other areas around Ireland, where Irish independents, mostly Catholics, fought against the loyalists to the Union Jack, the British Empire Crown, United Kingdom for freedom, and there was a lot of fighting in the streets and all kinds of crazy stuff, especially in Dublin. It was really intense, man. Not even that long ago. They were roaming the streets and taking over buildings, armed men all around Ireland. And in Dublin, the British actually sent in a gunboat and fired indiscriminately on people. And after this, there was problems, guerrilla fighting all around Ireland, 1917, 18, 19. So what a hell of a time to start a distillery. And then England, Britain was like, we've had enough of this. They gave Irish a free state, but they had all these stipulations, kind of like, we still rule you, but you have more autonomy. And some Irish were okay with it, but others weren't, especially the Irish Republicans. So then they started fighting. It was like an Irish Civil War from 1920 to 22. Yeah, super crazy. So this distillery was rocking all through that in its first years of existence. Finally, Irish Republic, though, got its independence. The Civil War was figured out, even though there was still a lot of troubles between the UK and the Republic of Ireland for several decades. We don't need to get into specifics. All right, but let's go into ancient history. So this distillery is called Hibernia, which is the name for Ireland from the Roman Empire, which was nearby in Britannia. So we're talking, 100 AD, around the time of Julius Caesar. They knew about Ireland, and they called it Hibernia. Hibernia, that was the name for Ireland. It was a mysterious place. Even the Romans, who fought all kinds of people all across the world and conquered people, the Scottish gave them a hell of a lot of trouble, and the Irish gave them even more trouble. They thought of Ireland as this mysterious land to the west where people lived that were savages. They fought naked and their whole bodies were painted, and you know, it was an unknown land. There are a lot of scholars, historians think that they might have sent some exhibitions to Ireland, some Roman legions, but you know, there was no documented case of it. Either they landed and the resistance was so heavy they got wiped out, or maybe it was so embarrassing that they, you know, couldn't fight the locals there that they didn't even tell anybody about it. Yeah, leave that out of the record book. Anyway, for all that time of the Roman Empire, they left Ireland alone. Which is the word Hibernia comes from. And then that word lasts to this day. So, all right, single grain Irish whiskey. Let's get back into the whiskey. Made during a volatile time in Ireland, named after the Roman name of the island. Let's give it a try. Oh, okay. Before that, though, this is pretty cool. This is a small batch. Only 5,000 bottles were made in 2016 on the 100th year anniversary of this specific kind. This is bottle number 1624. I got a hold of it here in Cork. Pretty cool logo. And where's the camera? There we go. That little logo, metal disc in the front with the Irish harp. Pretty cool. 1922 it says on it. When Irish Republic was free and established. So it's 46% alcohol by volume. Irish single grain whiskey is made in not the pot still, copper pot method, but the usually made in this other method that is a little bit cheaper to make. You know, it's a different kind of system. It's interesting how people came up with all these types of whiskey making. So this is matured. It was for 6 long years in ex-bourbon barrels purchased from the USA to give it its color and flavor. You can tell it's a little lighter though. Hyde. We're going to give it a try. So what I was saying was it's called a continuous column still, which most grain whiskeys are made in instead of the pot still. It's like a different method, but it is triple distilled. I don't know the specifics of the continuous column still, but this one might be made like that. It could be made in another pot still though, but 46%, a little bit stronger than the normal whiskey. And one interesting fact is most whiskey comes out around 90% originally until they distill it a few more times and get all the nasty stuff out of it and water it down a little bit. Whoo, straight fire water, baby. Okay, so 46% ABV without chill filtration, says here. You can't tell the difference. See the coloring. All right, so I heard something about Irish whiskey the other day in my serious research that I do about whiskey and history. Oh, check out that color. A little light. Look at that. Kind of interesting. Oh, here's another one that I got recently. Compare the color there. See, that's a single pot still. This one is the grain. So a little bit different. Thank you. So I heard something about Irish whiskey. I'm not going to do it on the start here. I like to first take a little sip. Again, this was reasonably priced. You know, nothing crazy. From 2016, not too old. Actually, no, 6 years. 3 years? Nah. All right, 6 years, limited edition. So they're not too old. Interesting flavor, grain whiskey. So back to the story about Irish whiskey I heard. I don't know if this is a marketing ploy for people to buy more. But I was researching, like I just said. And they said for Irish whiskeys to get the full flavor, you take a mouthful, not a little sip, and you swallow it slow. And I've been trying it with these other kinds I have. You can tell it's nice. It's nice. It's a interesting thing when it hits you like that. But first, let's try it. Just a little sipper. Ooh. Ah, light, refreshing. Interesting. Ooh. Definitely has a little more heat to it. Even just 6% more. It's pretty strong. All right. So, you know, I am a whiskey connoisseur, but really, deep down in my heart, nothing's good as a nice shot. Hey, man, from California, that's how we came up. So I'm not going to do the shot, you know, drizzle it back, but I'm going to do the Irish method that I read about. They said is the best way to taste Irish whiskey. So let's try it. A mouthful. Woo! All right. That's a nice flavor. Hyde. New type grain whiskey. Cheers! Slante! Okay, everybody, I just, editor's notes here at the end. So, 1916 is not when this distillery started. Gotta finish all the research, I guess. This commemorates, though, that history I was talking about. It was made on the 100th year anniversary of the Easter Rising, where the Irish independence revolution really kicked off to create the country of Ireland. So that's what it was made for. 100 years. And it's 2020, so that means 2016 with 100 years. They started the process about 2 years before that, 2014. What was I doing in 2014? I was in Portland, Oregon, and oh, that doesn't matter. The other thing is it says single grain whiskey, which means it must be like from a single batch. Okay. So slante, everybody out there. Slante is Gaelic for to your health, like cheers. And do what you gotta do. Yeah, cheers. That's a whole different kind of flavor. So, back on the single grain, there's single malt. Single grain, single malt is malted barley, all from the same batch. So this must be a single grain, which probably was corn, wheat, something like rye. Single, one batch. It's a small batch, only 5,000 bottles. I said that before. Then there's grain whiskey, which could be a mix of a bunch of batches. Oh, whiskey connoisseur. Thanks for learning about whiskey with me. Irish whiskey, where it all started. The inventors of whiskey. Thank you, Ireland.